Hi, Michael. What's up? Alright, let me get my camera angle here. See if we'll let people come on in. Hi, Marlene. How's it going? What's up? So, I'm after to start fire. Welcome to my channel. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, so this episode is about my visit to the Getty Center. Hi, Peyton. Love you all. Thanks for joining. So, I visited the Getty Center Museum in Los Angeles yesterday, and I have a lot to talk about. Hi, Frank. Nice to see you. I went to the Getty Center, Frank, your old stomping ground of Los Angeles, and I learned a whole lot. I filmed a lot. Yeah, please hit the like button. Thank you. I filmed a whole lot, but I'm gonna make separate videos with the actual art pieces and like the string of motifs that I've seen. But I wanted to do a live stream today and just discuss, while it's fresh on my mind, what I saw, my experience at the Getty, the signs and symbols that are in these pretty much ancient artifacts. I wrote a bunch of notes, so I'm organized. I really want to do this information justice and not make it convoluted and have kind of a stream of consciousness. So if I'm not totally responsive to the comments in the chat, please understand that I kind of have a little bit of a flow I'm trying to do. So let's just first start off. The Getty Center is a museum that I think it's John Getty. I don't even know the guy's name. I have a pamphlet in my purse. There was a Paul Getty. Anyways, he was a very, very rich man in Los Angeles. He acquired all of these artifacts and art and created the Getty Center. It is rumored in the like secret soldier program crowds and deep underground military bases that the Getty Center is connected to a deep underground military base, that the whole museum is built into the side of a mountain, and that whole mountain is like owned, all of the land is owned by the Getty Center. So it looks like it could be a buried pyramid. I think it's a buried pyramid that overlooks Hollywood and all of Los Angeles, and it's like an energy harvesting center. But besides the fact, it would make sense that there's like a rumored elevator that goes deep, 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 deep down into the mountain from the museum. And granted, the museum has other research facility buildings, and you can't drive up there. You have to take a tram. And you can't even just go there anymore. You have to make a reservation appointment for a certain time, and then you can go. I kind of wanted to open this up by talking about Damien Echols, who was part of the West Memphis 3 murders. That was, it was probably over 20 years ago. in Memphis, these 3 teenagers were accused of killing a little boy brutally, and it was a big trial, and he kind of like, I guess, kind of confessed in the beginning, but then recanted and said he was like it was like a coerced confession, and he ended up getting in his trial all of this, like all these celebrities backing him, like Johnny Depp and the chick from the Dixie Chicks. I think all of the Dixie Chicks actually, and some other celebrities. Maybe it was like Robert De Niro. Some like musicians, big names, backed him during his trial. He ended up getting sentenced, but he didn't spend a whole lot of time in prison. Anyways, now he's like a wizard, basically. He's like a dark magician. He has a YouTube channel. He used to do live streams, but it's weird. His live streams don't post until like 4 to 5 months after the fact. It's kind of strange how that happens, but he's kind of sickly. Like I have actually learned some magic from him, and I think it is important to listen to the people that represent the light side and the dark side, because information is information, right? And you could use the information whatever your intention is. So Damien Echols' YouTube channel, recently he posted a video series called Invisible Cities, and he was in New York City where he lives, and he was showing one of his celebrity friends around New York City, all of the spots that he likes. And it's basically all of the spots of George Washington, because George Washington like lived in New York City, and he takes him to the like oldest building in New York City, which is this church that George Washington, I think, was like inaugurated in or like christened in or something. And outside of the church, Damien Echols is talking about libraries and museums and churches and how they're places where you're supposed to go. You're supposed to go like for respite. You're supposed to go there for inspiration. And it's like this energy center. When you go there, there's all of these ideas, and it's like a store. He explained it where like in a video game, your avatar, like it eventually needs to go to like a general store or to the commissary or to the weapons arsenal or whatever, to barter and buy weapons, to buy medicine, to upgrade whatever, shields. And so there's like centers where you recharge and you gain new tools that you can then go from that spot and then take it back out into the world, and that's what you use to create with. And that's how these like centers are. It's like these museums and churches, cathedrals, they are meant to be places where you go there and all of this inspiration, images, ideas flood into your mind, and you can leave with new tools to then create. I think it also has to do with like ley lines. It's obviously tied to the Masons. You know, George Washington was like super master Mason. So with that, going to the Getty Center, this is the second time I've gone. The first time I went was in 2006. You've always had to take a tram up to it. You park down at the bottom, and then you there's like heavy security. They make you like open your purse. They look through your purse. There's metal detectors. I'm pretty sure you can't bring food, or like, I think some people came through with like a thermos. But so you take this tram up to the top of the mountain where the museum is. And this happened the last time I was there too, in 2006. It's like you feel like this lightheadedness, like it's not nauseousness, but it's like this like almost feeling like you're gonna pass out, like this woozy feeling. And I remember feeling that way in 2006. And it's kind of this, I don't know if it's like this business model for the Getty Center, because it's like you have to, when you're up there, you have to go buy food and you have to go buy the coffee. And that's what a lot of people are doing when they get there, because the admission is free. You are supposed to pay for parking, which is $20 for most people. But it seems like a lot of people just go there to spend the day, because there's a very nice grounds with like extremely beautiful gardens and like architectural designs that you know, are purposeful, and there's like sculptural art. So it's like some people are just like hanging out there all day, and there's like a cafe and there's like a fancy restaurant. There's a few different restaurants. So it does seem like it is kind of a scheme to get people up there so they spend more money on food and drink. But I do have to say there is something else, like besides maybe feeling having like a low blood sugar. There is like a different energy field that I do feel. There's that I felt both times. It's a lightheadedness, a low blood pressure. Also, there's very distinct smells in the museum. It's really cool because it's like, you know, all of the things that you're looking at are super legit. They are legit. They are the real deal. How do you know this? Because there are security guards in every single room, every single doorway. There is a guard watching the people in the room, watching what you're doing. They're like messaging to each other, like for the like first half of my time being there, I could swear that they were like watching what I like. They were there. They would like they come in between you and the paintings. They want to, if you're getting close to look, they'll come off to your peripheral vision and stare you down to like make sure you're not getting too close. But it was like they were. It did feel that they were like Matrixy agents, like they weren't maybe humans. I don't know, but they were like messaging like, okay, she's leaving this room, coming into the next room. It felt like that. But you know that these things are legit because these people are here. When I was at the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum in San Jose, there wasn't that kind of security detail. So it's like how much of that stuff was like recreated stuff, whereas this is like legit. There was a Van Gogh, the Van Gogh irises was there, and that painting had its own personal security guard standing there for that one painting. So going into it, it was interesting because the meat of the Getty, which is what you're going there for, is the Renaissance and the Baroque paintings. And there was like one small section of modern art, but that was like, there was like nobody in there, nobody cared, it was stupid, it was pointless. But the sumptuous Renaissance, it was like Annunciation, the Madonna and Child, not a whole lot of crucifixion pieces. I found that it's like more and more, I don't know if it's what's being displayed to us, but it's very heavily focused on Madonna and the feminine. But it's interesting because you start to read the descriptions of the pieces, and it's like there's a very small handful of stories that are represented in these paintings and sculptures. And you like start to read the descriptions, and like you realize that the descriptions aren't correct. Like they'll say like there's a lot of Aphrodite and Mars. Well, first of all, almost 80% of the paintings are about Aphrodite, or Venus, Aphrodite. And I think a lot of what is represented as Mother Mary or the Madonna or Virgin Mary is Aphrodite. Um, but there's Aphrodite in Mars, there's Aphrodite and Pan. So there's like Aphrodite and Pan paintings. And then you'll go look at something else and it'll say, oh, this is a faun and a nymph. It's like, why is it looks like it's the same Aphrodite and Pan. It's like the same stories, but they'll just label it differently, but it'll be the same story. There's also Hades and Persephone. And then there's this theme of the rich patrons or the donors that commissioned these works. They would commission their portraits in the guise of a deity. So it would be like, you know, Baroness, Baroness Mary as Diana, and it would be the woman, and she would be dressed as Diana with the leopard skin, or it would be like the patron donor Smith as Hermes, and he'd be dressed up as Hermes, and it's like, or they'd be the woman would be as Juno with the peacock feathers, and like everything in the scene would be for Juno or for Diana or for Aphrodite. And it's like, does this mean like they were reincarnated? Like how today, how I know I'm like the essence of Aphrodite reincarnated in the flesh? Is that the same thing? Like they were showing that they are the reincarnate of Diana? Or was it just like they wanted to have a portrait and dress up? Like, oh, I'm just going to have my portrait dressed up as Wonder Woman just because I like that outfit. I think there's a lot more to it because these paintings are so highly symbolic. Like, these paintings are, you could spend years looking at some of these paintings, and most people did spend, you know, they were hanging up in these family estates for generations, and people would, you know, live their lives in front of these paintings. And it's like you can feel the richness and the marination of life that these items have undergone. You can also, it has to do with the smell, like, you know, they've soaked up all of like the cigars in the tobacco room, the parties, the sweat, the breath of those people. But you can feel the energy, like I can feel like some of these paintings, most of these paintings actually have like spirits in them. And you could see it in their eyes. The eyes, they're a mode of communication, because a lot of paintings, some of the eyes are shadow eyes, and in the same painting they'll have beings with beaming light, like the white, like that's the part of the painting that is transmitting light is through the eyes. But then there'll be other beings in the painting with shadow eyes. Also in the sculptures, you could feel that, you know, the way that the iconography worked is that they would have the idol, and then you would summon the spirit, and the spirit would actually, of that essence of the idol, would go onto the idol. And I think it would kind of be animated, depending on your level of consciousness. But these are actually like energetic beings, and when you enter the room and they're surrounded by these statuaries, you can feel not only the security guards watching you, but like there's all of these eyes watching you. And it's like, and like I was like going up and like looking them in the eye, and it's like this weird energy. Most of it was good. The only thing that gave me like really, there was a couple things that gave me super dark energy. One was like this giant, it was like this, it looked like a cauldron, but it was like a giant vase. But at the top it was open with like just like spires, and it was huge. and like the little description said, oh, it had spiders on it and all kinds of like nasty things like carved onto it, but it was metal, so it was like some kind of weird cauldron thing, and I was like, oh, this is evil. Okay, so now let's go into the actual symbols that I saw that I think most people don't see. Oh, I also wanted to say too that if I really love this stuff, and I think if I didn't go into medicine, I probably would have gone into art history. And because my freshman year of college, I took an art history class, and it was a couple years. I went to Europe the July before September 11th in 2001. And I was at the Vatican, and I was, at St. Paul's Cathedral, and I was at the Louvre, and at St. Mark's Cathedral, and at St. Peter's Basilica. And I didn't know what I was looking at back then, but then a couple years afterwards, I took an art history class in my freshman year of college, and I was like amazed at all the symbols. And then it was like right around when that Da Vinci Code came out, and I was like, the Rose of Sharon and the Mary Magdalene, and it's just like, whew. And that's all, part of like Aphrodite and the blood of Christ. And so like going into the Getty, being an awakened being with this knowledge now, and looking at the paintings, it's like with new eyes, and I'm seeing, like, I feel like I'm seeing what was like originally intended for like the actual enlightened, illuminated person. Because it's all it has to do with the illumination, the feminine and the masculine, the light, the dark, the right, the left, duality, and the DNA and light. Okay, so first thing I noticed is that babies are fatter. Babies were fatter back then than they are now. The pictures of babies of the Christ child, obviously they're going to do the epitome of health when representing the Christ child. It's going to be the idealistic specimen of a baby that was, for that time, would be represented as the Christ child. And for the most part, these babies are like full of rolls, like chunky. And it's like, I know I was a chunky baby. Like babies in the 80s were like that, but I feel like now most of the babies I see are like skinny babies. I don't see a lot of babies anymore that have like the freaking chunk, like the rolls, chunk. These, not like, now like you might see like one chunk, but the babies, like the Christ child babies in these 1500, 1600s, they have like 8 rolls, like, and the thighs are just like roll. And the cherubs, they call the children cherubs putti, and a lot of times they have like really fancy hair, and they got chub, like they got chub. So I think that's kind of we like to think that, oh, they were unhealthy back then, or they were malnourished back then, and they didn't have access to vitamins, and they didn't have access to medicine. But it's like they were able to produce freaking chunky babies that have rolls and rolls of fat compared to the babies nowadays. I think they were way healthier back then. And they were going to show you the epitome of health in the Christ child. So that would have been the healthiest baby that they had. Okay. Also, interesting was the pictures of the Christ child. A lot of times the Christ child is picking flowers that are being offered to him, or there's strawberries or flowers around him. it's like, it's interesting because it's like it's like you don't know if it's good or bad. It's like the Christ is it's like he's plucking the flowers, like he's taking the DNA, like he's harvesting the fruit. He's not like planting the flowers. And I don't know. It's just kind of interesting, and we'll go. I think it represents DNA. I think it represents blood. I think it represents reproduction. I think it also represents that we're part of plants. Okay, next going on. The fingers. Okay, so the fingers, I spent, going into this, I was like, okay, I'm going to look at skin. I'm going to look at shedding skin. I'm going to look for cords. I'm going to look for threads. I'm going to look for light and dark. I'm going to look for demons. I'm going to look for globes. I'm going to look for feet and fingers. I'm going to look at anatomy. I'm going to look at I went in also being very aware. I know a lot of these paintings, they have this like second skin, and I think it might be called a chemise, but it's a very thin veil. And so I went in looking for that too. So the Annunciation is when the angel Gabriel comes to the Virgin Mary and tells her that she's going to become pregnant with the Christ child. And when the Annunciation is portrayed, it's always portrayed with Gabriel doing this. And it's like you don't see that anywhere else, and it's pointing up. And then Mary has her hands open. So this is like Gabriel is the pollinator. This is the phallus, and it's representative of Mary getting the open womb. She usually is like this, but during the Annunciation, her hands are open because she's open to receive the seed coming from Gabriel's finger. The finger is also representative of Osiris, and this is like the phallus. The DNA comes from the finger. That's why I think like the 14 pieces of Osiris, he has the missing piece, which was his phallus, and then they had to create a golden phallus. I think the missing piece of Osiris is usually the sixth finger, and it's on his left hand, usually like after the pinky. And I think that is the actual phallus, and it was misplaced as a sixth finger. So fingers are symbols for phallus, for male DNA deposition. Also, Gabriel is usually represented as, sometimes during the Annunciation, as having no wings. And that's almost because he comes into like a humanly form to pollinate Mary, but to actually be able to transmit the DNA, he has to be in physicality with no wings. Okay, another theme that I saw was the open hands is usually also tied with an open book. Mary or Madonna. So it's Virgin Mary, and then she becomes Madonna when she has Jesus. So sometimes she's seen with a closed book, and sometimes she's seen with an open book. It's like when the book is open, she's receptive. She's receptive to being pregnant. When the book is closed, she's not. And this also has to do with the hands. In the main painting I'm referring to of the Annunciation, Gabriel is coming to her in in the red curtained room, and the red curtains symbolize the womb or the vagina, and then there's like an open window which represents like the open vestibule that's ready for the receiving of the seed. So books in hands, and books are also, you know, trees, the story. There's some paintings of Madonna with her Christ child with an open book, and she's reading the book to her child. Another thing I saw was the golden threads, and I find this very timely and interesting to, I think, current understandings of what's happening in our realm right now with the magnetosphere and the pole shifting. I just watched a video today about you know, Masonic secrets, and about the magnetic field and the magnetic environment that we live in, that the air is the most transmittable substance that we are constantly interacting with, and it has to do with the magnetic field, and the magnetic field is dependent on the light. The light comes from the sun and enters in through an actual tubule. There are actual light tubules that exist that we can't see with our own eyes, but we have a light circulatory system, and these paintings are trying, these art pieces are trying to convey this, I believe. The light enters in through, this is actually the teachings from the Masons, the light enters in through your crown, through the sun, and this is part of your healthy magnetic field, and then you discharge it either through your root chakra, like I think through an orgasm, or through like grounding through the soles of your feet, and then it's recycled back into the air, the ether. And if you don't have integrity, if you go against natural laws too much, then your magnetic sphere will be affected and start to get penetrable, when it usually is a shield. Like if you live in virtue and you have integrity and you like do things according to natural law, then you have a strong magnetic field and there's like a healthy exchange. But if you like, you know, screw people over, if you lie, if you know, are a nasty attitude, then your magnetic field is penetrable, and you get, you know, frequencies of sickness. But all of the airwaves, right? All of the TV channels, all of the radio stations, everything is blasting through the air right now, right at you, and you're able to dial in and listen to one radio station and watch one TV channel, or you go to one website, but it's all in the air right now, accessible, like hitting your body right now. And it's kind of like, this is you can see this in the movie Lucy with what's her name, Scarlett Johansson, where she's like so advanced in her DNA, and she starts seeing the frequencies as actual chords, actual lines of data, and she can pick through, and then she picks the right frequency she wants, and then she's able to connect to it. And this was like this is a technology that's always existed, and this is represented in that painting. It's on my thumbnail, of the golden light cords coming from the crucifix into, it was Saint Catherine of Siena receiving the stigmata. That was in 1513. Whereas actual golden threads going into her body from Jesus. I thought that this is the same communication and the same representation of what's shown to us in Egyptian art of the lights of, I guess it's Amun Ra, the arms, the hands of God with the manna, the light beams coming from the sun and feeding it to the people. Those are the same as the light codes coming from the sun. You know, the sun is Jesus, Son of God, but that's what's transmitting. There's actual like light, there's actual structures like light tubules that are entering in our body right now. It does come through the crown of the head, but I do think most of it, this is my own theory, I think most of it comes through the pupils. I think you could also eat it. I think maybe it's goes through your teeth. And obviously your whole skin absorbs it. But there's actual like pores of where a light tubule exists. So like these light threads, these cords are represented in like multiple pieces of art in different centuries. So there was that stigmata in 1513, and that actual stigmata picture with the light threads, she has a countering painting where it's an angel talking to Saint Catherine, but the angel looks like a little shadowy demon, and the little shadowy demon angel's like putting something in her mouth. Then there's also a painting from 1470 that I put on my thumbnail of the Christ child with Madonna, and it's like these invisible strands that are coming off of Mary's head, and Jesus, the baby Jesus, is holding these threads at the base of her chin. And the painting, it looks like, and then they have these halos behind them with the mark of Cain, you know, the cross within the circle over their heads. And the scene behind them is like a pasture, like a farm agricultural scene. And I swear it looks like they're two hot air balloons. Like you could like just blink and it looks like it's a hot air balloon scene, like over, you know, a Napa farmland. And hi Kat. Sorry, I'm like totally ignoring the chat right now. I'm on my my roll. But like, I think for any just casual observer, you say, oh, he's grabbing strands of her hair, you know, but her hair is kind of like this orangey, you know, a ginger strawberry blonde ringlet, and then these threads are there like white, like almost invisible, like spider web threads, but the way he's holding it in their heads, I swear it looks like hot air balloons. So it's like, what's up with that? I also think it's so, and then the big one with the threads was this giant tabernacle. So it's this big display with the 3 panels, like a big main panel and then the 2 side panels from the 1340s. It's called the Kairato Tabernacle. And in the middle, it's all gold. It's all gold, gold plated, and then the sides are painted like oil paintings. But the middle it's so different because it's just gold plated, and then the bottom, it's painted. But the gold plated part is Jesus, and then from his belly button, his navel. That's what I was trying to say. His navel. I was like navel. From his navel, all of these light cords are coming out. This is all gold. And then surrounding him are like floating angels, like taking in the cords coming from his belly button. And then there's one cord going straight down. And at the bottom, it pierces through this firmament, I guess, and then below it's black, and there's like a little priest and a man kneeling, taking communion, and the priest is holding a bread, and the gold thread from Jesus is coming through down, going into the bread and into the man's mouth. Okay, and then on the side panels is Jesus. This is painted oil. It's Jesus, but I think it's Jesus God, and he's holding Jesus crucified. So it's like the Father God, Jesus, holding Son of God, Jesus, crucified, and then coming off of Jesus is dripping blood. Now this is a red cord. The middle is a gold cord, and this side one from the crucified Jesus, not the Jesus in heaven. The crucified Jesus is the blood dripping down. It goes through another firmament, and below is a congregation with a priest, and then people like praying to the priest. And the red thing turns into, like, it looks like a root. It's like a black. It looks like a black branch. The red cord turns into like a brown black root, and then those roots go into the people in the congregation. So I thought that was like super symbolic, that it was like it was like almost the man that bypassed the church got this actual light cord from Jesus in heaven, or from God in heaven, but the people that actually worshiped the crucifix Jesus got like the blood dead filth, and it was like, it looked like a tree. It was tied to like a tree. And then also in that same tabernacle, in the center one with the gold, and the one light stream coming down to the one man, there's two other side men on the sides, and they're holding mirrors. They're both holding mirrors. And just from that one light coming down, they're at the far ends of the room, they're able to reflect that light, and it's going into like another guy. So it's like mirrors, and it was like mirrors and no church. So mirrors are tied to the light, and you know, mirrors are a sign of Aphrodite too. Mirrors are a sign of Aphrodite in the Fibonacci sequence. It's like you have to have, that's something that, you know, I watched the Theoria Apophysis, and first of all, he's like he argues against flat Earth, but then he's like all about the toroidal field, but he doesn't explain, but he'll still argue that like it's a globe. So I don't really understand that, but what was I talking about? The mirrors. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, the mirrors are, the Fibonacci sequence is that the Fibonacci sequence, which represents Aphrodite, which is beauty, it's actual mathematical code, but it's 0, 1, 1, 2, right? The Fibonacci sequence, the next integer is the sum of the last two. So you start with, most people don't start with 0. I think you're supposed to start with 0. So 0 and then 0, 1, or maybe you don't. You just start with 1, and the next one has to, you start with 1, and then the next one is a reflection. It has to be a reflection, and that's how you start the beauty, is you have to look in the mirror. So it's 1, 1, and then 1 and 1 is 2, and then 2 and 1 is 3, and 3 and 2 is 5, and that starts to make, and then 5 and 3 is 8. That starts to create the golden spiral, or the golden rectangle, right, where the width is half the length of the rectangle. That's the golden rectangle. That's what makes it beautiful. This is the actual symmetry of her face. And that's, you know, the same, the mathematics, the math magic in Disney, and he talked about how, I mean, I already knew all this, but he talked about how the Math Magic Disney episode was like created by the worst Nazi there was, who did like the worst scientific experiments. But these are all of like these are the actual informational codes of the realm that we're in, and it has to do with light, threads, golden threads, and mirrors. Okay, so the mirror has to also do with like self-reflection. You're supposed to like look inward. To go to get gnosis, you have to go in. But to build the beauty, you have to like reflect back at the original. That's the same thing as like God making creation, right? I mean, you're made in God's image. First you have to reflect yourself, and then you can build upon that. But I thought it was interesting that in this 1300s tabernacle with the light beam, the only thing that transmitted the light beam directly from heaven, Jesus, was the mirror. Worshipping the crucifix got you like root, dirt, black cord stuff. Okay. The other thing I noticed that it seemed like there was actually, I could see like a different species represented. When representing the angels, certain Virgin Marys, certain Jesuses, they like to picture a lot Saint Anne, which is supposed to be Jesus's grandmother, or the mother of Mary, is Saint Anne. And I'm not Catholic. I don't think Saint Anne is really in the Bible. I don't really know any stories about Saint Anne. I find it very interesting that this woman, Saint Anne, is represented a lot in the pictures of Madonna and Child, and a lot of times they aren't really sure if it's Saint Anne. It's just like this other woman looking down on Mary with the Christ child. So the whole Saint Anne thing, I'm not really buying. I think a lot of times, especially when it's represented as an older woman, you're seeing the different stages of Aphrodite, or the Virgin Mary, the Virgin, the Mother, and the not matron, the is it matron? No. It's not Maud, no. The older woman. But even sometimes Saint Anne is like looks the same age as Mary in the painting. So I think that also might be an allusion to that this species might not need a male to reproduce, that it's X chromosome. And this can also be like with the representation of Christ with the flowers. But the different species attributes I saw were these very strange almond eyes. Like they call them almond eyes in the description, but it's like this pronounced. The closest I could maybe compare it to nowadays is to maybe an Asian person, maybe like a person from like like Mongolian person, or like a person from Siberia. It doesn't really, the eyes don't look Japanese or Chinese to me, but it's on like a Caucasian looking person, but they're like these very wide set, like far apart, like there would be like an eye here, kind of reptilian and very almond shaped. In some paintings, it's like you have these almond shaped beings next to other beings that look like a normal habitus, a normal Homo sapien with normal kind of round eyes. And then you have this being with the almond shaped eyes, and they almost have like this pronounced forehead, like the brow comes out a bit. Even on the like some of these beings might be androgynes, but they have these characteristic eyes that are wide set. So one of them was from 1520. It's a painting of the Holy Family from Italy. And this is when they have mixture of beings with the almond eyes, very pronounced forehead, kind of like Neanderthal forehead, and then the eyes are like very wide and almond shaped. And then there's that the statue on my thumbnail of the Annunciation. Both Gabriel and Mary have these wide set almond shaped eyes, and that's from the 1300s from Italy. And then behind her there was a painting it was from 1560s of Mary with the almond shaped eyes. And it's like I can't think of anybody. Maybe some Russian people have this characteristic, but it's a very pronounced, like it looks like they might be a different species. I also thought it was interesting, one of the paintings, all of the women, including Mary and Jesus, and Saint Anne, they had the second toe longer than all the other toes. You know, that genetic trait where you have the big toe and then the second toe is longer. That was a Madonna with Saint Anne from the workshop of Da Vinci. That was a Da Vinci painting from Italy, and the toe was longer. And their other paintings, the toe wasn't longer. It was the big toe was the biggest for most other paintings. So I thought that was interesting. In one of the paintings of Mary, she was in the mountains, and the mountains had beings in the mountains. They had faces in the mountains, and that was from 1500 Milan, Italy. So I'm kind of just like saying that there are like representations of these other supernatural beings in the landscape. Oh, there was this one cool painting of Mary with the Christ child. And there's all these, like, there's these weird symbols I think most people would overlook. But this one was from 1420, and Mary is sitting on the bare earth. She's sitting on ground. And she has these black mountains behind her, and then like a gold sky. And it's like they're saying that, oh, it's to represent that she's close to the earth, that she's natural. And then these black mountains behind her look like these big black angel wings. So it's like, is this like a Sophia kind of Pachamama, Mother Earth, Sophia Gaia kind of messaging? I thought it was interesting because it felt like most of the pieces were focused on coronation of the female. There's the coronation of the Virgin, where from 1420, where it's an adult Jesus, an adult blonde Jesus. This is what the description says: an adult blonde Jesus crowning his mother. They look the same age, and it looks like a king crowning his queen. And Mary often has her arms crossing her heart. I think that has to do like with the mark of Cain, also the X chromosome. But when Jesus is crowning Mary, there's a dove which represents the Holy Spirit, and the dove is like everywhere. The dove, which I think is a symbol for Aphrodite, even though they like to say, oh, it's just Holy Spirit. I think it's Aphrodite, and what it's representing is the feminine essence that is necessary for the like existence of Jesus. But in this I think that it's a lot of these paintings are the Holy Trinity was the mother, the father, and the baby, and then they polluted it and said it was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and cut out the mother. But this painting, the coronation of the Virgin, is really a marriage ceremony, and that's the Holy Trinity, is the coronation of the female as an equal. And then, yes, a lot of pictures of the Virgin Mary or Madonna with child. There's that thin, I don't know if it's, I think there's another name, but it's that thin, invisible cloth. And I did study about it in art history, and it's like supposed to like represent like this light skin. And it's like, is this symbolizing that they're like reptilians? A lot of times Jesus is covered in kind of this broken, like, it's like this invisible sheath, but you can see like it has light in it, but you can see through it. It's like the shroud. It's like a shedding skin. I know Ra Costello talks about it, that he was born with the veil when you have the membrane stuck to the face of the baby. But it's like this skin, the symbolic light skin. But you'll see it only on like Mary and Jesus, and you won't see it on other people. Is that the comforter? Is that the holy? Is that like the holy garment that they have of protection that the other people are trying to get through Mary and Christ? I also thought it was interesting. A lot of these paintings, like the coronation of the Virgin, which looks like a marriage ceremony. Hi, Genevieve. Bonsoir. Thanks for joining. There's angels. A lot of these angels, they have rainbow wings. There's angels, and they're holding like musical scrolls, and there's actual musical notes on it. And I'm like, has anybody played this music? Like, you could read the music and play it. I mean, I can't read music, but I know like it is music that could be played by looking at it. Oh yeah, and I also thought like how special, like, this time, like how unusually valuable it is to have access to all of this information in one place. I mean, can you imagine back in the day when these paintings were created? Like, maybe a person would see one in their whole life. You know, maybe they worked in like a, you know, in a mansion, and they were the servant, and they could see the painting every day. But that was like, they only saw the paintings in that one house. They never saw any other paintings in their whole life. Or, you know, even if you were a rich, you know, aristocrat, you'd see the paintings in maybe your fellow friends' mansions, but you weren't going to all the museums. You weren't going to Italy, France, London. Like, you maybe went once in your lifetime. You weren't going like, so you weren't necessarily being exposed to like all of the information at once. And here, even nowadays, I don't think people really care to look at Renaissance or Baroque art, but like to have all of those things concentrated in one building, all of this really, really rich with information, it's like buzzing. There was this one painting of it was like astronomer by candlelight, and the description is, an astronomer studies his you know, findings late into the night. And it's like this guy with a candle, and it's like all about symbology. Like, it's about illumination. And then he has the candle in the middle. There's a globe. He's looking away from the globe. He's looking, there's an hourglass here. He's looking at the hourglass, and like, see, he's turning his back on the globe. He's looking to the toroidal field. You know, like, everything had a symbol in it. But most people are like, oh, it's an astronomer at nighttime by candlelight. Like, if you just read the description, you wouldn't know. But being immersed in this, it's like going back to what Damien Echols is saying. It's like this smorgasbord of like fruit, and you could just pick the fruit, and it's like all of these ideas and inspiration like enter your body, and like I felt like it's like you feel nauseous, you feel overwhelmed. There's these weird smells, like it feels like you're about to faint, like not nauseous where you feel like you're gonna puke, but like the feeling like you might be nauseous, like kind of that weird. It's like the air is super thick, it's thick, and there was also like older people there, so like some of the rooms it, like you were breathing in farts, like you're actually like breathing in people's farts, but like the wood, the lacquer, like a lot of it's like tortoise shell, and like, you know, there's like furs, it all like soak, like the oil that has egg in it, like it soaks up all of that like information, that like DNA, that like perfume, and it's, the air is thick. There was this one, and these people that are standing in the museum watching you, they're something else. Like it's like this is one of those places, like, you know, you're on some kind of checkpoint between realms. Like that was the same at Hearst Castle. Like the people that work there, they aren't normal people. Like Dimitri kept saying, like, these people live here. Like a lot of them, they when you talk to them or you ask them questions, some of them are knowledgeable. Some of them, they're like are like have like mental disabilities. It seems like, but Dimitri actually asked one of these guys, like, "Hey, is there any secret rooms in here?" He's like, "Oh no." Hmm? Oh. But yeah, towards the end of where we were looking, it was in kind of the furniture area, and there was the really old, he was probably the oldest art docent security guard there. And granted, like 90% of these people are wearing masks, and there's all these signs all over the place, they want you to wear a mask. I didn't wear a mask. A lot of people didn't wear masks, like actual patrons of, people that were there to view the museum weren't wearing masks, but a lot of people, most of the people that worked there were wearing masks. But anyways, this old man, he's probably in his 70s, maybe pushing 80, already has like a kyphotic spine. We walked through the room, and he was in the, you know, hallway between the rooms, or the doorway, and he's like, you know, he had his mask on. He's like, "Did you see that over there?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Did you see that painting over there?" And I'm like, "Oh, you mean the mosaic?" He's like, "Yep, that's it, it's a mosaic." I'm like, "Oh, God, thank you." He was going and making sure, and I heard him, you know, the next people behind me walking through, he's like, "Did you see that painting over there?" And then they're like, "What?" And he's like, "It's actually mosaic." Like he wanted to tell them, "Oh, it's not a painting, it's tiles." But then he would walk that person over and specifically make them look at that piece. And what it was it was a mosaic, but it was a bust, but it, you know, it was like a painting, but made out of tiles. It wasn't a sculpture. Just from the head up, no, from the chest up, it was a portrait, but it was in mosaic tile, teeny tile. And the man, he had like flowing white hair, and he had a giant, I don't know if it was the Iron Cross, but it was one of the Templars. I don't know if it was, you know, I don't know if it was a knight. I don't think it's the Knights Templar. It was the Maltese, where the red cross and the ends are V'd, you know, like a V on the ends of the cross, big red Iron Cross. And it was like he made everybody pay homage, basically, but he introduced it as like, "Oh, did you know that wasn't a painting?" Basically, that it was tiles and not an actual painting. But it was like I think it served another purpose. Like he was making sure everybody paid homage to this one being at this thing, and he was some head Knights Templar, Maltese, Falcon, Knights Hospitaller, whatever. I think it might be Knights Hospitaller. And it was a life, like there was some energy coming out from that. So that was like that little man's duty. Like that was what he was making sure everybody went and saw that thing. There was another thing about golden showers and money being thrown, which I think represented the DNA and stardust. And the other thing I noticed is that dragons, like actual dragons that used to exist, they looked like dogs. They looked like dogs with feathers. Like they were like kind of the size, like they weren't, I think they were like the size of like Gila monsters. But they looked like dogs, and they had like kind of a very not a rounded skull, more of a flat skull with the almond eyes on the side, but it was all feathers. I think that's about all I have to say now. Let me see if I have any comments. Hi, Michael. Thanks for commenting, guys. Hi, Adrian. Hi, Tinfoil Hatter. Yeah. Hi, Soul Red Analytics. Yeah, penis and vagina. I have lots. There's also a lot of like not appropriate age related things in art, and it's like I filmed it, and it's like I can't even post it. Like if I posted it, I'd probably get banned forever. Hi guys, thanks so much for joining. Hi LXDR. Thank you. All right, I'm sorry I didn't answer your comments. Thanks all for joining me. I'm just gonna keep this information and lots more with the actual art pieces and with my notes on it to come. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.